that you can use the two-side approach, that the Quran and fasting, and it will absorb in you. It will become you. You will become it. It will change you. It will mold you. It will better you. But that's if you embrace the two. I cannot bake a cake because I have flour when I don't know a recipe. And if I have a recipe, i.e. the Quran, but I don't have the item, I'm baking nothing. Does that make sense? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this is a month in which this Quran was revealed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about three things here. If a person is now fasting, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ. Allah changed the time now. First He gave us our capital, yes or no? Now for fasting, which you admired the Jews for, Allah's changing it. Until the white thread and the black thread can be separated, you're going to fast now. It was an interesting story. This verse was revealed, حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ. That's it. Until you can see the difference between the white and black thread. There was a Sahabi. He sat down while he was fasting. He took a black thread and a white thread, and he kept on looking at it. And now he's getting hungry, he's getting tired, he's getting exhausted, and he didn't know how long he has to fast, because the Quran said the white thread and the black thread. And then he went to the Prophet ﷺ, how long more, how much more? I can't figure this thing out. And then Allah said, Minal Fajr, from the horizon. I.e., we fast from when? When do we fast from, everyone? I want to hear it loudly. When do we fast? That's the problem. Sunrise to sunset is the problem. There's no such thing as sunrise. If you start from sunrise, your fast hasn't even started. See, sunrise happens an hour and 40 minutes after the break of dawn. The thread, meaning when the black horizon starts becoming white, because the light of the sun precedes the sun itself, that's when you start fasting. And when do you stop fasting? When that sun goes down. Min al-fajr. ثُمَّ أَتِمُّ الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Now you go all the way till night. And night starts when the sun goes down. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did one more thing. He allowed us to have physical relationship with our spouses in Ramadan also. Because remember, the Jewish fast was what? You cannot have a relationship, you cannot eat, you cannot drink from evening till next evening. There was nothing you can do. So Allah said, you fast in the day, you can have relationship at the night, but the purpose is focus on the soul and not so much on the body. I want to finish this and hand it over to Sheikh Arsalan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses that changed out even the practice. So what happened by this? Allah changed laws. He gave us a capital. What is our capital? Makkah. Where did He give it to us? In Medina. Number 2, He gave us laws of fasting which are better than before. And the last thing Allah did, brothers and sisters, is that He gave us our constitution in this month. We celebrate the 4th of July, yes or no? America celebrates 4th of July, right? Why? Day of our independence. Day when we became a nation. The day when we became something and someone. This whole month of Ramadan is the month that Allah revealed your constitution. He revealed the constitution. He gave you specific laws that defined you from others. And He gave you your capital. So if you look at it, this entire month is a celebration. A celebration through practices and submission. That is why Ramadan is important. You don't fast because you want to lose weight. You don't fast because your parents told you to fast. You don't fast because, well, everyone's going to laugh at me if I'm not fasting. You're fasting because you're the sponge and the Quran is the water. Absorb it. You're fasting because the Quran is the seed, you become the soil. You're fasting because the Quran is the method and fasting is the tool. So that is why Ramadan has so much significance, because it's a two-tier approach. I'll end with this and I'll hand it over to Sheikh Arsalan now, who will talk to us about the spiritual significance. Now we talked about history. Everyone got the history down, inshallah? History makes sense? It's imperative you understand what people were doing and why they're doing what they're doing and why they continue to do what they're doing, and you understand why Allah gave you what He gave you. He gave you to fix what the past was given that they didn't do. They were told to save themselves through the protection of Allah, but they punished themselves. They were told to save themselves through the protection of Allah, but they said, if we want to, we'll think about it. Allah is saying, you have this 1 month. You have what? 1 month. If you want to save yourself, and if you want to change the world, and you want to change the conditions of this ummah, you want to change the conditions of your personal affairs and your family affairs, you have the Quran to absorb in you through fasting in this 1 month. Jazakumullah khair. Sheikh Hasan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How about we stretch a little bit? Everybody stand up.
That was longer than the khutbah, I agree. Alhamdulillah.
Alright, 30 seconds. You can keep standing, move your feet, move your arms, do whatever you need to do. Alright, you can sit back down, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. For those of you who came late, if you would like to ask questions about anything that's being said, the way we're going to take questions is via text messages. So, I sent you a question on WhatsApp, by the way. So, you can text your questions to this number. I'm going to give you the number. I want you to write it down or save it somewhere so that when you think of a question, you can send it to this number. So the number is 972-379-7624. Once again, 972-379-7624. I will receive your question and I will also share it with Imam Azhar, inshallah ta'ala. So, the next thing that we would like to talk about is the spirit behind fasting. The first thing that I want to do is I want to go back to the ayah that Imam Azhar mentioned from Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. O you who believe. So the first thing that Allah starts with is, O you who believe. Allah is addressing you and me with a title of honor and respect. He could have said, أَيُّهَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, O believers. Or he could have said, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ, O mankind. O believers, O mankind. Or he could have said, like we say, ladies and gentlemen, men and women. Could have said anything. But he says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Which means what? Not O believers. It means, O you who have entered the faith. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is congratulating you for making that leap. And He's reminding you that you have made this choice to be believers. He respects that. He honors that about you. You have made that choice to be believers. You're not just believers. You are those who entered the faith. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. So He's calling you with the title of respect. And then what does He say? Kutiba alaykumus siyam. Siyam has been made mandatory upon you. Siyam or sawm. Two words in the Arabic language that mean the same thing. We translate it as fasting. Sawm or siyam. Did you know what the meaning of sawm and siyam is? Literally. The literal meaning of the word sawm is not fasting. That's how we use it. There's a lot of words like that in our deen, that their linguistic meaning is different from the way that we use them. Right? Sawm is one of those things. Sawm, literally, like the way that the Arabs used it before Islam, means two things. It means to restrain and withhold. Like, if I take this phone, amsaktul mobile, as they say in Arabic. Amsaktul mobile. I have withheld this phone from dropping down with the pull of gravity. I'm holding it back. That's one meaning of sawm. Imsak. The other meaning of sawm is to come to rest. Sukoon. Tranquility. Rest. The opposite of movement. Okay? And I want you to think about what's the relationship between sawm and fasting. And if you think about it, like the Arabs will say, for example, when the horses are running, they're running, and then they come to a stop. They'll say, Samatir rih, the horses samat. That doesn't mean horses are now fasting. They're not fasting. They came to rest. They stopped running. So sawm, if we fast properly, it is intended to bring what to our hearts? Rest. The restlessness and the agitation you feel, sawm is intended to help you overcome that. It's embedded within the word sawm. And the other meaning of sawm, al-imsak, withholding. Sawm is restraining myself, holding myself back from drink, from food, from sexual relationships, from dawn to dusk. But it is intended to help me develop this restraint system at a deeper level. So I restrain myself from anything that amounts to the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So fasting, brothers and sisters, fasting, when we perform it properly, it's not just to stay away from food and drink, but it is intended to help me develop restraint, and it is intended to bring rest, solace, comfort, tranquility in my heart and in my life. And then when do we fast? We fast the obligatory fast in the month of Ramadan. Ramadan. Now what is the meaning of Ramadan? Ramadan. Ramadan is also an Arabic word, and it has a meaning literally. Ramadan comes from, the linguists say, it comes from ar-ramad. Ar-ramad. And what is the meaning of ramad? Ramad means to get a sunburn. Like when the camels would go out in the desert in the daytime and they come back with a sunburn. The Arabs would say, Ramadatil fisalu min al-har. But the young camels have come back with a sunburn from the heat of the sun. So why is Ramadan called Ramadan? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Ramadan to be the one month in which we have to fast? Because the ulama say, because sometimes to cleanse something, you need to put it on fire. You know certain things that need to be put on fire to be cleansed? Like what, for example? Like metal that are taken out from the earth. They are purified. Gold, for example, is purified by putting it on fire. It's cleansed that way. And not only that, sometimes there are wounds, especially in the past before modern technology. In the past, certain wounds needed to be treated by a process that's called cauterization. And cauterization is basically to put a burning piece of metal on the wound so that you cauterize, you kill the bacteria around it, so that the wound remains clean from the infection of bacteria. So Ramadan is intended to cleanse us by burning our sins away. Just like you burn off the impurities from a piece of metal that you dig out from the earth by putting it on fire, Ramadan brings cleansing to our hearts by cleansing us, by purging us from our dhunub, our sins. So that's Ramadan. And there's another meaning of Ramadan too that's very beautiful. It's mentioned by Al-Farahidi in one of the famous dictionaries. He says, Ar-Ramad is also a word that the Arabs used to refer to rain. But not just any kind of rain. The soft rain of the fall season. Not the torrential rains of a thunderstorm. Not that rain. But the rain that is soft, that comes down in the fall season. And that is what Ramadan is meant to be for our hearts. It's that soft, gentle rain that comes down and brings life back to our hearts. That's what Ramadan means. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامِ. Fasting, Sawm has been made mandatory upon you. Mandatory upon you. When you think of something being obligatory, the first feeling that comes to the mind of many people is responsibility. This is a burden that I have to do. I have to do it. But what we often don't realize is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes something fard upon you, it's because there is benefit in it for you. There is so much benefit in it for you that He wants to make sure that you don't miss out on that benefit. That's why He makes it mandatory upon you. What does Allah get out of making something mandatory upon you? Nothing. You pray 5 times a day or no times a day. Does that increase Allah in anything? Does that decrease Allah in anything? No, the benefit only comes to you. You as an individual, you, your family, your society, your community, mankind in general. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made fasting mandatory upon us tells us something. That there is benefit in this thing for me. And the benefit is so much that Allah made it mandatory. He didn't just leave it as an option for me. He made it mandatory upon me because there's benefit in it for me in this life before the hereafter. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits, the spiritual benefits of fasting in this life before the next life. Because all of us know, we fast. Why we fast? Because so that we can go to Jannah. That's in the afterlife. But what about this life? First, there's a hadith on the authority of Abu Umama al-Bahili radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, ayyul amali afdal? Ya Rasulullah, please tell me the best action that I can perform. Okay, so now think about all the actions that the Prophet ﷺ could have said. He could have said salah. He could have said birrul walidain, being good to your parents. He could have said jihad fi sabilillah, dying in the cause of Allah. He could have said charity. He could have said reading Quran. He could have said qiyamul layl. He could have said so many things. But he said in this hadith, he said the best action he said is عَلَيْكَ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ لَا عِدْلَ لَهُ. He said to him, hold on to fasting because there is nothing like it. There's nothing equal to it. There's nothing equal to fasting. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The ayah says, fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed on those who came before you, so that you attain taqwa. Taqwa. Imam Azhar has talked about the meaning of taqwa. Right? I'm going to break it down further for you in case you were not there for the khutbah that he gave on the topic. Taqwa comes from a root word. Taqwa is translated frequently as fear of Allah. Fear of Allah. Taqwa. God, fearing Allah. Or there are other translations that are given too, right? But taqwa actually comes from a root word in the Arabic language that means to protect. To protect. Waqa yaqi. Wiqaya is a shield. So taqwa means, as Imam Azhar said, to protect myself from something. To protect myself from something. When you say ittaqullah, that means what? Have taqwa of Allah. Meaning what? Protect yourself from doing anything that will earn the wrath of Allah and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So fasting, when I fast, it helps me develop this shield around me that prevents me from doing anything that disobeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when I fast properly, it helps me control my gaze. Protect my gaze from looking at something that Allah doesn't love. That's taqwa. When I protect my ears from listening to anything that Allah doesn't love, that's taqwa. When I control my tongue, when I shield and guard my tongue, when I protect my tongue from speaking or saying anything that Allah and His Messenger don't love, that's taqwa. When I control my hands, and we use our hands for so many things nowadays, especially with these devices that are constantly in our hands. When I protect my hands from doing anything that displeases Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is taqwa. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. If I fast properly, it will help me increase in my taqwa. It will help me develop and strengthen this shield around me from falling into Allah's disobedience. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, "At-taqwa ha-huna," pointing to his chest, that taqwa is here. Taqwa is in the heart. Taqwa is a state of my heart that controls my limbs. So outwardly I can put up a front of being very righteous in front of people. But when I'm alone, then the real me comes out. Fasting helps me develop that taqwa inside so that I can be righteous when I'm with people and I can be righteous when I'm away from people. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The other benefit, so this is one benefit of fasting that is in this world, that it helps me develop taqwa. The other benefit of fasting in this world is that it teaches me sabr. It makes me a patient person. Because look, what prevents me from taking a sip from this bottle of water when it's sitting on my desk in my office every day of Ramadan? Nobody's there. Imam Azhar is in his office, he closes the doors, he has the whole refrigerator in his office. What prevents him, both doors are closed, right? From opening the fridge and drinking something or eating something. It's sabr. I'm sorry. The fridge is not empty. I go there and get my water from there too. Exactly. So, what prevents him? Sabr, patience. Fasting teaches him to be patient. And he tells himself, no, I still have an hour left. I still have 5 minutes left. When you're at home and your mom or your wife or your dad or your husband has cooked all this nice food, and we know who does all the cooking in our homes. May Allah bless and reward our mothers, our wives, our sisters for doing everything that they do for us, and we take it for granted. And we should help them out, especially in the month of Ramadan. But I'll let Imam Azhar talk about it a little bit later, inshallah. So, when the food is being cooked and the table is being set, and you see the mithai there, or the ruagza there, or the samosa there, or whatever it is that's there, right? But there's still an hour left till sunset. what do you tell yourself? I have to wait. I have to wait. I'm hungry. I'll go in my room, close the door so I can't smell all that. But I will be patient until sunset before I can break my fast. Fasting teaches me to be a patient person. And patience is what makes us different from animals. What makes us human. The more patience we have, the more human we are. Fasting is a seminar in patience. And the Prophet ﷺ actually said, sabr is half of iman. Patience is half of faith. So the more we grow in our patience, the more we grow in our faith. So that's another benefit of fasting in this life. Another benefit of fasting in this life, a spiritual benefit, is fasting weakens the shaitan. Fasting in Ramadan or outside of Ramadan. Because we know in Ramadan the devils are chained. We'll talk about that inshallah. But even outside of Ramadan, anytime you fast, it weakens the shaitan. How is that? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, shaitan runs in your blood vessels. And so the ulama said, فَضَيِّقُوا مَجَارِيهِ بِكَثْرَةِ الْجُوعِ وَالْعَطَشِ. So constrict the pathways of shaitan by hunger and thirst. And we know from science tells us that when we're hungry, our blood vessels constrict. They become narrow. And when we eat and drink, they replenish, they widen. They become bigger. So if you want to weaken shaitan, you want to squeeze him. Squeeze him, to weaken him. And the way to squeeze the blood vessels is by fasting. And that's why I'm sure all of us have experienced this firsthand, that when we're fasting, it's easier to overcome the shaitan, isn't it? It's easier to remain upright and give up bad habits. Why is that? Because shaitan is weakened through fasting. That's the benefit that we get in this world by fasting. And so on and so forth. There are many other benefits of fasting in this world before the hereafter. And of course, ultimately the benefit comes in the hereafter, when fasting will protect us from the fire of hell. Now, there's one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he said, all the deeds of the child of Adam are given many rewards. Each good deed receives 10 times its like, up to 700 times, except for fasting. Fasting is for me and I will reward for it. Because my servant leaves off his desires and his food for my sake. So what is this hadith telling us? It's telling us Allah is saying fasting is different from the other acts of worship. It's special. It's special. What's special about fasting? Fasting is mine. As-sawmu li. Fasting is mine. Anytime Allah attributes anything to Himself, it makes it special. You take a structure made of bricks and stones, but when you call it the house of Allah, what does it become? The Qibla, the Kaaba. You take a book that's made of paper and ink, but when you call it the book of Allah, what does it become? The Quran that you have to treat in a special way. When Allah says fasting is mine, that tells you how special it is. And those who fast, that's how special they are in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting is mine and I will reward for it. In other words, there is no number attached to how much reward Allah gives for fasting. For the other deeds, the reward is from 10 times up to 700 times. But for fasting, Allah rewards without measure. You know what that means? I don't know how many of you, have you ever gone to a fruit market or a vegetable market where the seller sells using a scale? A scale? Has anybody been to, even in the Muslim world or in some other countries, right? Some of you have seen this. Like you go to a fruit seller and he has a scale. There's two sides of the scale. So what he'll do is he'll put the fruit on one side and he'll have a weight on the other side, right? So if you tell him, I want I don't know, 1 kilogram of tomatoes or 1 kilogram of dates, right? He'll put dates on one side, he'll put 1 kilogram weight on the other side, and once it becomes balanced, that's when you know that you have 1 kilogram of dates, and he'll put them in a bag and give them to you, right? And he'll take the money. That's someone who is selling you dates by weight, by measure. But now imagine you go to a date seller, and he happens to be your friend, right? And you say, "Salam to him, how are you? Nice to meet you, haven't seen you in a while, how's the family, this and that," right? "Can I get a kilo of dates?" What's he going to do? He's going to take a bag, he's going to put a bunch of dates in there, he's not going to measure it. And you're going to say, no, please, I want 1 kilo, that's too much. No, it's okay. He's going to keep filling that bag until there's no more space in that bag, and he's going to give that to you, and he's not going to accept any money from you. That's giving something without measure. That's how Allah rewards for fasting. He doesn't measure it. There's no measure. He just gives reward after reward after reward. That's what you're going to see in the hereafter for fasting. The reward of fasting Allah gives without measure. He doesn't even count it. That's how special fasting is. And that's the benefit of fasting in the hereafter. One more thing, inshallah ta'ala, and then I'll hand it over to Imam Azhar. The other famous hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِذَا دَخَلَ رَمَضَانَ فُتِّحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ وَغُلِّقَتْ أَبْوَابُ جَهَنَّمَ وَسُلْسِلَةِ الشَّيَاطِينِ. That when Ramadan comes, 3 things happen. فُتِّحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ. The gates of paradise are opened. 2, the gates of hellfire are shut closed. And 3, the shayateen are chained. What does this mean? فُتِّحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ. The gates of Jannah are opened. I don't know if you ever come to the masjid at the middle of the night and you try to open the door. Do you think the masjid is going to be open? No. If you come like a little bit before Fajr, you'll find like maybe out of those 8 doors that are on in the lobby, maybe 2 of them will be open. But when you come for Jum'ah, all the doors are open. When you come for Eid, all the doors are open. Why? To welcome everyone into the masjid. For Fajr, we know there are fewer people, so we don't need to open all the doors. But for Jum'ah, we welcome everybody to come for Jum'ah, so we open all the doors. When Allah says, فُتِّحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ, Jannah is open, waiting to welcome anybody who wants to come to it. All the doors are opened to welcome people to Jannah. What does that mean? That means, number 1, that it becomes easier to do good in this month. Because Jannah is calling you. It becomes easier to do good in this month. Number 2, it also means that someone who dies in this month goes to Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. Alright. فُتِّحَتْ أَبْوَابُ الْجَنَّةِ غُلِّقَتْ أَبْوَابُ جَهَنَّمَ. The gates of hellfire are shut closed. وَسُلْسِلَةِ الشَّيَاطِينِ. And the shayateen are chained up. What does that mean? That means, when somebody chains you up, it restricts your motion. You can't move very much when you're chained up. You're restricted. So shaitan, when he is chained up, his activity is restricted. His impact upon you is weakened. And you will feel that. I'm sure you feel that in the month of Ramadan. That it's easier to do good. But some things we still find difficult to do in Ramadan, isn't it? There's some bad habits that even in Ramadan we find it difficult to give up, isn't it? And that is a lesson for us to teach us something about ourselves. This is important. Pay attention to this. The first step in solving any problem is recognizing the problem. The whole year we blame shaitan for our mistakes. Oh, shaitan made me do it. Oh, he whispers to me all the time. I might even go to someone doing ruqyah saying, there's a jinn that's making me do this. Right? But Ramadan teaches me that this is not coming from shaitan. Even when the shaitan is chained up, I'm still doing it because there is another bad influence in my life other than shaitan. Shaitan is one. The other bad influence is my own nafs. My own nafs. And my nafs has gotten to a point where shaitan doesn't even need to do anything. This bad habit has become ingrained in my nafs. And once I realize that, then I know that this has become a serious problem that I need to turn my attention to. So Ramadan has that benefit too, that it helps me discover myself. What are the major issues that I need to tackle? Those are part of my nafs that haunt me even in the month of Ramadan. I need to turn my attention to these things. So this is another spiritual benefit of the month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all witness this month and take the full benefit from it. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. I'm going to hand it over to Imam Azhar, inshallah.
I want us all to try something. I teach it in my class, which inshallah we are going to start the second round of in September, inshallah. Holistic lifestyle coaching modeled by the Quran. We do a breathing technique. I want you guys to try it. So let's just inhale first to understand my hand. Inhale. Exhale. Alright? So just understand my hand gesture. Now we're going to try it differently. Just understand my hand first before we try it. Sub. In your head you're going to say Subhan Allah. Let's try that. Let's try the second one. Alhamdu. So let's do it again. Hold it. Lillah. Take it on 2 breaths. And the third one. 4 inhales. 4 segments of inhaling. Hold it. And 3 segments of exhaling. La ilaha illallah. Let's try it again together from the beginning. Say Allahu Akbar. If you ever need serenity and you're stressed out, it's the third kalima breathing exercise. Inshallah, we'll talk more about it in September. Kind of piggybacking off what Sheikh Arsalan said and taking that forward. Remember what I talked about. Ramadan is no longer a month. Quran is no longer a book. The laws of fasting isn't Allah making difficult on me. It was more difficult on the Jews because the Jews made it difficult on themselves. This is a month where we're going to celebrate that Allah gave us our capital. He granted us our laws and He gifted us a constitution. When a people have a capital, a law, and a constitution, what do you define them as? A nation. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We've made you into a nation, a moderate nation. So understand, Ramadan is more than just fasting. It's more than just a practice. It is actually the celebration of our nation. Now, Sheikh Arsalan said fasting is about rest and ceasing. Yes? Remember that, everybody? I got a subpoena or I got something that said I need to come to court. What's the first thing I'm going to do? Freak out. The police pull you over. It's at 45, but you were coming for Qiyamul Layl and you're doing 70. He knocks your window. He's just going to ask you for your license, your insurance, and he's going to come back with a hefty ticket. And you might have to go to court. What are you going to do? Freak out. At that time, it's not going to work. He's like, can you give it to me? You're going to court. So now we freak out. Our whole life, things haven't been going our way. Every time I plan something to do something the way I want, it's not going my way. From my family, my children, my marriage, my job, my friends, my foes, it's not going my way. So we've been freaking out, haven't we? We have been freaking out because we're always complaining about things. And so fasting is where the lawyer is hired. You go meet your attorney. He's like, don't worry. You're like freaking out. Look, I got this ticket. I got this subpoena. What's good? Take it easy. Sit down. Have some water. He's not crying. He's not breaking a sweat. She's not breaking a sweat. Looks over everything. We'll take care of it. I.e., the person who you don't even know, you Googled best attorney in my area. The attorney that's going to keep me out of jail. The attorney that will make sure I get my insurance back. You know, you're worried. And this person who you don't even know, you don't know their mother or father, where they're born, and how long they've been practicing. When they say to you, don't worry, I got it. What do you feel? Ease. What do you feel? You seize your fears. You seize your concern. Ramadan is a month for us to seize. Stop worrying about life. Because when you become muttaqeen and you hand over to Allah your affairs, you think Allah's going to mess you up? You think Allah's going to mess you up? Think about it. This is the most greatest opportunity that Allah is giving you through fasting in Ramadan, when your constitution was given, your laws defined you from other people, your capital was solidified. Give it to Allah. He'll take care of it. Ramadan as a month, as Sheikh said, it's like a tan, right? Many people go to Miami, South Beach, they go to Clearwater, they come back and they look different. And we say to them, hey, you got a tan. They smile. Like, no, seriously, man, I put the SPF 60 on, it didn't work. No, you're happy about your tan. It's a symbol of your enjoying your vacation. I enjoyed myself. I had a good time. The tan is a symbol of that. That's my token. That's my souvenir. Ramadan should leave something on you that you're going to feel, that people will feel. You should exit Ramadan in a state that you feel ease, that your problems are no longer problems. They're a problem, but Allah said, I'm taking care of it. And that ease is so, it's so contagious that people see, how come you're fine? How come you look at ease, like everything looks fine for you. You have such a good life. No, life isn't easy, but Allah's taking care of it. The tan of Ramadan should continue. In order for it to continue, Allah wants us to, as I said, you're the sponge of fasting. The Quran is the water. Absorb it, right? Does that make sense? But just say the sponge was already full. A sponge is already full of water. And you put it on the table to clean the table. Are you cleaning it or are you making it more dirty? Brother? Are you cleaning the table or are you just spreading more water? Why? And the reason you're not absorbing is because the sponge is already full. Right? So what's the first thing we do, guys? Sister? Squeeze the sponge. Squeeze it out. Squeeze everything out of it. Fasting is an opportunity for us to first squeeze out before we take in. Let go of what's in us before we can embrace what we need in us. And the blame, as Sheikh said, this is going to happen on Day of Judgment. The classical case. The creation that's going to have the most lawsuits ever filed against him is who? Shaitan. On Day of Judgment, Allah, you know, I was going to the masjid, Allah. But you know, Shaitan, he said, go to McDonald's. It was $1 meal. I had to go to McDonald's. And because I thought they're closing. But subhanAllah, when I got there, it said 24 hours. I didn't know that, Allah. But Shaitan. It was Shaitan. Man, those $1 meals. Right? Shaitan. So Allah would say, fine. File your lawsuit. Put it over there. Everyone's going to file their lawsuits. And Shaitan's going to have lawsuits 100 times the size of Mount Everest. Right? Now, Allah's not going to, remember one thing on Day of Judgment, Allah's not going to put it in our faces. Iqra kitabak. Read your book. Hey, you know what? This is your book. Read it. Allah's not going to tell you. Read it. It tells you where you're going. You wrote your book. If your book does not become a New York bestseller, don't blame the publisher. Don't blame the editor. Blame yourself. It's your fault you never wrote it right. It's your life. Write it. Allah says, "Iqra kitabak, kafa bi nafsika al-yawma alayka hasiba." You are the greatest critique for yourself today. You can critique your book. Is it worth the shelf or not? Is it worth the shelf or the bin? It's up to you. So now Shaitan, everyone's filing a lawsuit. I missed my prayer, I missed my fajr, I did a fast that day, Shaitan. So picture in your head, these lawsuits are piling up to the sky. Allah will call Shaitan. Hey, you got these. He's not going to break a sweat. وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ. When everyone's done filing their lawsuits, Shaitan's going to make his opening statement, his argument. إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ. You know, Allah promised you guys something. When Allah said, "As-sawmu li wa ana ajzi bi," do you know what that means? Allah saying, fast is for me and I am the reward. This is not what Allah said for Hajj. It is not what Allah said for Zakat. It's not what Allah said for fasting, for prayer. He said this only for fasting. He didn't give a numeric reward. He said, I am the reward. I am your bodyguard. I am your attorney. I am your helper. I am the controller of your affairs. I am your driver, and I am the controller of everything for you. Allah is your reward. Only in Ramadan. So now Shaitan's going to say, Inna Allah. Shaitan. Who's saying this, everyone? Shaitan. Think about this. The devil is saying this. Inna Allah. Verily Allah. Wa'adakum. Promised you. Wa'ad al-haq. A true promise. When Allah said the food is there, the food is there. When Allah said, I'll get you out of the hands of the Pharaoh, He got you out of the hands of Pharaoh. When it happened with David and Goliath, and David went in, Allah gave David that conquer and gave him that success. Allah promised, He made His promise true. Yes or no? When He tells us His history, He told us the promise was true. That's because His promises still stand true. Even the devil knows it, but I doubt it. Inna Allah wa'adakum wa'ad al-haq wa wa'adtukum. And I promised you, hey, start vaping, hang out with those people, sleep around, drink alcohol. It's cool, it's nice, you'll feel good. I promised you. فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ. Right? I went against my promise. I said to you something that wasn't true. Allah said something to you and it was true. But I said something, it wasn't true. We'll get to that. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي. He's going to say today, in front of us. Think about this. Look at a court. Allah is the judge. Shaitan is standing up. And the whole world is standing on one side. The cases have been filed. And Shaitan is pointing to you. He's not talking to the jury now. He's not talking to the angels. He's not talking to the judge. He's talking to you. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't blame me. Blame yourself. مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِي. I didn't grab your hand and pull you to do something wrong. Did I do that? Did Shaitan come in? Were you coming to Fajr and saying, Allah, and he grabbed you like, let's go to McDonald's? Did he